What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of Hops Geek News, your home for comic books, movies, TV shows, and typically we feature a beer of the week. I am Matt. With me, as always, is Lauren, and today we are just going to talk about The Last of Us Season 2, Episodes 1 and 2. Spoilers ahead. If you haven't caught up yet, I'm going to dive into it. We're going to dive into it. I'm going to give a little bit of game knowledge and maybe some things that have departed from the game in the actual show, talk about some things, and then, of course, that's all this one is. It's just a special episode for you guys. Talk about our reactions. But first things first, make sure you go ahead, like, subscribe, share, follow on social media by searching Hops Geek News or on your favorite podcasting platform. Find us on YouTube. Make sure you hit the notification button. We haven't gone live in a little bit like we usually do for Cantina Hours. That's because we've been just busy, man, busy. But I picked an appropriate feeling beer because the can art is a girl beating up a dude. It's from Clown Shoes Brewing in Boston, 7.2% Galactica Dank Nebula West Coast style IPA. Like I said, I really picked this one for the can art, and that voice you hear is Lauren. So Lauren, what do you have over there?
So I'm actually cracking open a Last of Us themed beer called Click Click Boom.
Oh no, you brave little soul.
So yeah, this is from last year. I haven't tried it yet. So so if you have been listening to us for a while, then God, it's probably 2 years ago now. The show was 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Then I've drank this before. It is a goza with cordyceps, roasted lion's mane, oyster mushrooms, and truffle sea salt. Now I got a 4-pack of this from Tactical. I love their beer. I do not judge all of their beers based on this one. I also hate mushrooms in general, but I was like, dude, this can art is so absolutely beautiful. I'm gonna get a 4-pack.
It was.
I didn't love it. So we're going to see if this is a beer that ages well. I didn't hate it. Like, it weirdly wasn't terrible for a literal mushroom beer.
I didn't like it at all.
But so here's, it
Take
wasn't
that
great.
for a sip. Let us know.
They make some of my favorite beers. This actually doesn't smell bad. It actually smells a little more fruity. I don't get many.
She's turning into a bloater. Oh God. Oh man, if you start running, I'm dead.
Oh, this has gotten better.
Really?
This is much better.
It looked like you were going to pass it to me through the camera. I was like, Lauren, what are you doing?
Here, Matt, try.
You literally just like reached towards. I was like, wait, what are you doing?
Wow, this almost tastes like a regular goza.
Oh.
I get no feelings of wanting to bite
I should have sat on it for a while, except for it probably would have got drunk, while it was gone, but well, good.
Well, we had one, I think we cracked one open at some bottle share maybe a year ago, and I was like, oh, this is better than I remember. So I just had to let it age for 2 years.
Well, there you go, folks.
I need to let the show age. Ugh.
Oh,
I will say we're not going to do game spoilers past episode 2.
No. Yeah, we're not doing game spoilers past episode 2. We're going to talk about the first couple episodes. We didn't do an episode 1 specific episode just because there's not a whole lot that happens. But episode 2, Lord Jesus.
Oh my God.
Takes us to a whole other level. So episode 1, this picks up 5 years after the events in Salt Lake City. We know Joel lied to Ellie. Their relationship is on the rocks. We don't quite know what happened. If she found out.
She had to have.
Well, they don't explicitly say yet, and I'll get to that because in the game, she does find out, but she finds out when Abby comes to town, basically.
Oh, so relationship, bittersweet or not bittersweet. Then it's an extra blow to the heart when Joel dies. Interesting.
Oh yeah. So we'll go through that in episode 2. But yeah, what was your first thoughts when episode 1 kind of brought us back in a softer tone? Did you expect more out of the first episode? What are your first reactions?
I did expect more out of it, but I wasn't disappointed in any way, shape, or form because I felt like I could tell they were setting a lot up. They've had a very good 5 years. It can't all be nonstop action. It made sense that they had a good 5 years and that we weren't there for it because, you got to move the story along. But no, I didn't dislike it at all. I thought it was fine. We saw their relationship. I love that Joel was going to therapy, and I love that Catherine O'Hara is his therapist. And did you notice what her husband's name is?
Eugene.
Which Eugene Levy plays her husband in Schitt's Creek.
So
cute. I think he
is not in the
murdered,
game.
though. I heard that
he was murdered. Yeah, yeah.
But I don't think he was put down. I think he was murdered.
Murder? What murder? He's the greatest guy around. So why do you think he was murdered, though?
Because I think he found out that Bella,
because he had a killer grow shed.
Maybe. No, I think he found out that Ellie was. I think he found out the truth about Ellie. And I think Joel was trying to protect her.
Because nobody knows that she's immune.
Immune.
She was bit because it's very, except for Jesse, I think, right? Or Tommy. Tommy knows. Nobody else knows, I think, at this point.
Oh, because he
Because there
told
was that
Tommy back in the
well,
day, right?
there was that scene, where they were out there doing their thing and you're so immature practicing. And she's like, I'm yelling, I'm immune, which in my opinion is dumb. The game version of Ellie wouldn't have done that, but I'm not going to go into that because there's really nasty discourse online right now. I have no problem. Bella Ramsey's doing a great job, especially in episode 2. I'm
She
just saying
kills it.
Gabriel
She's
Luna,
been phenomenal in Game of Thrones. She's
she really
phenomenal
was.
in this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
People are just dumb, but yeah, so nobody really knows. In this one, we get introduced to Jesse, who's played by young Mazzino, and then Isabella Marquez, who is Dina. And now Dina plays
Or
a very big important role.
Dora.
Well, she was an Alien Romulus and a couple other things that I was like, oh, that's why she looked familiar to me. Yes, she plays a pretty big important role in the games and the future of the show. So I really like her character. We also there's a departure in season 1, or I'm sorry, episode 1. We meet Abby and her crew. Now, we don't know in the game anything about Abby or who she is until she actually commits the act.
I
That's
think that would
when
have
they
been
find out.
better.
Which I agree. I don't like that. But I think I know why they did it. It's because, well, obviously we're talking spoilers. So it's because you
Because
have
they're
Pedro
gonna have
Pascal.
flashbacks for Pedro.
Well,
Is what
they were setting people up to be prepared to lose Pedro, which I as it can see, Tabby was not a fan. So she already said that she's quitting the show. But I think they were trying to get people starting to get comfortable with the idea of Abby and what she was going to do. But yeah, in the game, you don't know anything about. So I wish they had stuck with that. I don't like that right off the rip. We're introducing, well, there used to be all of these people and he killed my dad. Bah, you killed my father. Prepare to die. That kind of bit.
No, Inigo Montoya. Oh my gosh, she
Yes.
should have said that. I came all this way. Are you the
But the
six-fingered
crew
man?
she's with, so actually Tati
Um,
Gabriel, who plays Nora, she's from Sabrina, funny enough, and she's a really good actress.
she looks familiar.
Ariella,
She's gotta be in
she
something
was
else.
in a lot of stuff. Owen is played by Spencer Lord, and you could tell, and Mel, and so the people that are with her, aside
One of the girls
from
is from The Runaways.
yeah, so the people that were with her though, basically, were very uncomfortable with her whole vendetta. They didn't want to do it. They went to Seattle, all of that good stuff. Everything is going kosher in the town. Ellie and Dina go into and they fall into the shop, and that's where we
Oh,
get the
she's from
smart stalker.
you.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The the clicker is called a stalker. They're the ones that stalk you, hunt you, kind of things like that. And that was a really cool sequence to show how they did that. And what are your thoughts on the zombies, I guess, at this point? Because these are very different zombies than I think a lot of people are used to in
Yeah.
the zombie mediums.
I don't know. I'm having a hard time this one, and I'm hoping they're going to explain some of it because obviously we saw cordyceps coming through, like the pipes and whatnot. But for one, I feel like these zombies are too good. Everybody should already be infected. Like they're
They
too
run.
fast.
Oh my
They
God. How are they
climb.
so fast and running?
Well, and then when they're
I'm
attacking
dead.
the city in episode 2, like how do they know how to get on the roof? How do they know that people are in the cellars? Like,
That's a
are they
big problem I
selling
had
these?
as well.
And
I
like
had a
Brielle's
big
like,
issue with
well,
that.
maybe they were humans that were there before, and I'm like,
I don't think so.
no, I'm not buying that. All
I'm not
like,
either. So
I
I
don't
get
know.
the cordyceps and the pipes communicated with the hive mind, which is fine.
Oh, I don't. I
That's what they're because
still
they were
feel like
moving, right? Now
so
in the
that's why
game,
they're saying that they
yellow.
knew. But come on, you know how to climb. You know where the stairs are.
Well, that's the other thing is that's in the game. That's not how it goes. Yellowstone doesn't fall like that, for example, or not Yellowstone.
I was like,
Jackson
this
Hole.
isn't
That's not
what
what
you call
happens
it.
in the
Wrong.
game.
Oh, that's a comic book.
Yeah.
Sweet tooth.
So I also agree with that. I don't know. A lot of people had issues with them going on the roofs, game players, things alike. This isn't a game versus show debate. It's just we agree. I definitely agree with that
Yeah, it was
sentiment.
just too much. And it was kind of one of those
I don't
like
agree.
sometimes when situations get with like, okay, this is absolutely ridiculous. How are they going to get out of this? Like
Also,
it's
they
going
should
to
be
be
frozen stiff and dead in that winter, right? I get they were frozen and then they started running and moving, but shouldn't they be dead, frozen to death?
I agree. And they even had that in the Walking Dead comics where it was like in the winter the zombies would freeze. So I have another
Zombies should
question
not be
though.
running through deep snow in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. I've been there in winter personally, and you're not walking without snowshoes, let alone running.
Well, and aren't these
I
people
digress.
technically still alive?
Yeah. they're
So
just.
do you have to have a headshot to kill? I know the cordyceps is in the
I don't
brain.
think so. I don't think you have to have a headshot to kill. No,
So the
as you can
person
see,
just
they were
has to
just
be
kind of
killed?
capping them. Yeah.
Okay, so then all the more reason that they should be frozen to death. And that was a big thing too in the flashback in the first season, where it was like the temperature of the humans needs to be a certain degree for them to be able to be like taken over. But if global warming happens and the planet gets warmer, then they're more likely to be
Right.
able to take over human beings as opposed to ants or whatever. So
No,
now
you
you're
don't
in
need to
freezing
kill
cold
every zombie with a
temperatures.
headshot. Sorry, in The Last of Us. Headshots are the most effective way. However, you can just spend more ammo to kill. They're harder to kill. They're basically on bath salts, for example. And it
Okay, like
depends on what you have.
adrenaline
So
pumping.
the stalkers are the standard zombies. They can be killed with body shots. Headshots will take them down more quickly. Clickers, so stalkers are what we saw with like Ellie, for example, in the shop. Clickers, obviously,
Oh, the one that
the
like
clickers.
hid.
Yes. Now, clickers are the formidable enemies. Headshots are recommended, but you need to hit them with a few more shots.
Then
And
I feel
then the
like they should freeze to
bloaters
death.
are the giant, beefy boys.
Right.
God, you got to burn them to death, all that kind of stuff. You really got to waste all your ammo. So, no, you don't have to headshot them to kill them. It just depends on what they are. But you're right. I do feel as though the winter should have destroyed them, but
The
neither here
winter
nor
should be their
there.
downtime. Like they should have made it like it was spring and the snow was
They're
melting or
on winter
something. I don't
sabbatical in
know.
Florida, all right, with the rest of the old yuppies from Massachusetts.
Well, and
Now,
then the big bloater, like that kill was like that was too convenient that it dropped dead right there. I thought Tommy was dead.
me too, and I would have been pissed, but we'll
And
get
when
to
they
that in a
were
second.
kissing goodbye, I'm like, "Oh, they're kissing goodbye forever."
I
Like I
thought she
really
was at
thought he
least
was
dead.
dead.
Yeah.
I don't know why I thought he was, but I also had no clue Pedro was about to die.
Now, in the end of episode one, there is that dance sequence from the game, and her and Dina kiss. They do have a relationship, but Dina's not strictly lesbian, obviously, right?
No,
You
she's
know,
bi. She's even bi in the
yes,
show.
and
Yeah.
right, and there's some things that go down. I don't want to spoil, but that is a relationship that forms in the game. Now, episode 2 is where things go off the rail. This is a lot of people said it. This is the episode that Game of Thrones wanted with their White Walkers.
I saw that, yeah.
Imagine
It was a little more light.
it was. Now,
But
I'm
Bella
yelling.
Ramsey survived this time.
She did. She didn't get destroyed by a giant, white. And I'm yelling at my TV, even though I know what's going to happen about Abby. And Joel saves her in the game from, clickers and things like that. So that was accurate. But Jackson Hole doesn't fall, for example. But I thought it was really cool how they defended their city or the town with the
Yes, that was
barrels and
smart.
blowing them up. But I agree. They were climbing on top. It was very World
It
War
was
Z.
too much. Yeah, I feel like they should have had like I get like do the explosion, make Joel so that because I feel like they wanted Joel to be like, okay, I'll go here. This is why I'm willing to be vulnerable and go to your people to help save my people desperate times.
Yeah,
I get that, but I feel like they could have done that without like destroying the city. Like that was like they were too
they could
prepared.
have.
They were too smart. Like, old and young go to the basements. Everybody else
And they
up
were
like know your
endless. Yeah.
positions. Yeah, and it was all just pointless. Like,
But
I
they
don't
all
know.
survived in the basements. They never got through to the basement, luckily. It was the rooftops. But I still agree. Like, how did they know? And then, one big gripe I have as well is, and it was just a show, right? You don't know. They were complaining how they would never make it back to town without freezing to death. That didn't really, but they can
Oh, it
see
looked
the
really
town on
cold.
fire. I was like, yeah, it looked cold, but on a horse going fast, it
But
looks
you
like you
already
could have made
saw,
it there.
Dina was already getting frostbite. So and that was the one thing because I haven't watched the game, I'm seeing
Okay.
as like, okay, I
So,
know she wants to kill Joel. Maybe she'll second think it. Maybe she'll give him a chance to explain. He said because when she walks in, she's like, give them
yeah.
medical attention.
Well, and it was because they were going to. So Dina in the game is not with Joel. Joel and Tommy are together when they're captured. So Tommy's the one that gets captured with Joel and watches Joel die. And Tommy's the one that convinces Ellie to leave Jackson Hole for revenge. Now, they didn't do that in this. It was Dina,
I don't yeah,
which
that
was
wouldn't make sense, I
a
feel like.
weird change. And, that was an interesting change up there because those two they put Dina to sleep for an hour and then they don't monologue for 50,000 years. They left a couple lines of dialogue out. It's never going to be one-on-one, but Abby never dialogues for an hour, but that's when you find out who she is and what she's there for. And his death is way more gruesome in the video game. She clubs him to death with the golf club. She doesn't shoot him. She doesn't stab him with a pole. No, she clubs him to death with a golf club. It is
Pedro
very
Pascal, I think
graphic.
they
It's
went
very
as far
violent.
as it could go.
Well, we crushed his head in Game of Thrones. Poor dude. Poor
But
dude on
he wasn't
HBO.
He
Pedro,
wasn't the
baby girl.
he wasn't the Pedro Pascal we know today that he was then. I
I
feel
know.
like
It's
a
very
death
true.
like that today, people would lose their minds more so.
Oh yeah, could you imagine the uproar that would have caused today? Although it was his fault in both regards, I feel like. And I like the line, "I saved you." You know, I agree. I get it. He
Wait, who
killed your
saved
dad, but
who? We're talking about Heather?
well, when Pedro or Joel was standing there, hands up, he utters the line, "I saved you," because he saved Abby from the horde.
Oh, I don't think I never
And
got that.
yeah, no, he says, "I saved you," and
At least
everybody else
did
is
she then say, "I saved myself"?
well, no, she was just like pissed,
Sorry,
and
that
she
was a
was like, "You
Daredevil
are
joke.
handsome in person," which is a weird line, but you
Yeah, because
know,
he's, like, old enough to be her grandpa.
yeah, well, it's
Back
just
down, weirdo.
it's so lame. Like Joel is not a good person. I'm not sitting here, but I think it's kind of lame. He's really not, especially in the game. So it's kind of really lame that Abby is holding on that for 5 years. She never let him even explain his side of things, and
I don't
Pedro never once did. It wouldn't have mattered,
He
but
never
you can see
tried
the
to, but
rest
I
of her
think that was
crew.
because he was protecting
He
Bella
was,
or
he was.
Ellie.
Well, because he would have explained why yeah, it would have gone into, hey, she's immune, blah blah blah. Again, he's
Right,
protecting
and
her
then she's
because
vulnerable.
right.
And then she would have been like, "Oh, so my dad's death was more relevant than hers, which could
My
have
dad's
saved
she could
millions
have
of
saved
lives."
everybody, but you
Yeah.
chose this. Exactly. So they don't know at this point. But I thought the sequences was really well done. The tension was there. Seeing everybody's reactions. I've been holding this in for years. Like when this show was announced and you were watching season 1, it was so hard not to spoil. And I'm sitting here, I've been sitting on, and I wasn't sure they were going to do it yet. I'm
That's the
very
thing
impressed.
too. They've really followed the
They
game,
have.
which I'm wondering if they're gonna venture further off now for people who've watched the game to be surprised.
Well, there's a lot of very somber flashback scenes that we're gonna get with the two of them, which are gonna make people even sadder. This whole game is depressing. It's gonna
Mm.
rip your soul out. It doesn't get better.
See, we had hopeful moments in season
No,
1, but
it
I
doesn't get
think
better from here. It gets sad and
so
depressing and very, very sad.
is the age difference the same with Tommy and Ellie and everybody in the game?
Pretty much, yeah. Joel, was in the 60s. Ellie, the
Which
only
they
issue
made
I have
Pedro look
is
older than he is.
Bella Ramsey, she hasn't aged a day in the 5 years, which is fine. I don't care
I
about
don't
that.
think
I don't
she's
care.
literally aged a day in the last
She
5
hasn't
years.
at all. No, no, she really hasn't. I thought Caitlin Dever did a really good job as Abby. Honestly, I thought she did a killer
Yeah, she made me hate her.
job. Yeah. Oh, yeah. And you know what? In the game, so this isn't a spoiler or anything, but in the game, after you watch Abby kill Joel, they make you play as Abby to twist the
Really?
knife. And you're so fucking mad. Excuse my language. You're just
Oh, that's terrible.
I'm telling you, man, these game developers are evil. And so I'm curious to see how it plays out from here. I know we're going to get a lot of good flashbacks, but it's bleak. This story is bleak from
Yikes.
here on out.
So I have a thing though with the Tommy thing. The reason I asked the age was because you said that Tommy encouraged Ellie to go after Abby.
Yes.
I don't see that happening this time because I feel like Tommy is kind of like a second father figure.
I
Like
think
he's
it's going
truly
to be
become an
Dina.
uncle to Ellie. So I don't think that he would try to put her in a situation like that. But yeah, so when I was watching all this happen, and even as she's like shoving the thing in Joel's neck, I'm still thinking like, this can't be real. He'll pop up. Someone will come in and save
Well,
his
he
life
did. Oh,
because
dude,
he's
it was so
Joel.
sad when she was like, Joel, get up. And he starts to lift his head.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, man. That was really good acting for both people. So
And then
sad.
Falcon goes and kicks him and calls him a
Pendejo.
pendejo.
I know. I
Ugh,
can't. Oh my God.
terrible.
I didn't realize it was Falcon until you told me because he was obviously
He's got
way
the
different
longer
looking than
hair.
Falcon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then the mustache and everything. So I was like,
I was
oh,
like,
wow.
you just made me
Clark
fall in
Kent.
love with you 2 months ago, and now you're pissing me off.
Oh, you're so nice helping Captain. What are you doing? You just beat down.
Kicked
Oh,
Mr. Fantastic.
also, to be fair, Ellie should have started shooting the second she opened that door, but that's neither here nor there. Yeah, no, I thought that acting was incredible. The way she crawls to Joel, she's sad. My question though is, what happens to the horses? They just left a couple of horses up there to put.
Oh yeah, who
Everybody's
else said that? Somebody else said
ski. It
that.
was ski.
Oh, Ski said it.
Everybody was basically, what happened to
Maybe
the
they took the
horses?
horses.
No, they were
That was my
walking.
thought.
Remember?
Abby and them, they didn't take
Yeah,
the
they were
horse.
walking. No, they didn't take the horses. And Carrie also was, why didn't they take the other horses? Well, first of all, Ellie is absolutely wrought with grief and now PTSD. Dina just got drugged. She's barely hanging onto that horse. So I feel like you could have, and they're dragging poor Pedro's body. I
I
almost
thought
feel like,
Pedro was going to be hung over one of the horses.
That's what I was thinking too. They could have done something there, but I do think that Dina's going to be the one to convince Ellie to go get revenge since they've put her in the Tommy role
I don't know
in
if she's going
this.
to need convincing.
Well, yeah.
I could see it being
Fair.
like, I don't think you should do this, but if you're going to do it, I'm not going to let you do it alone.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where we're going with this. There's going to be a lot going on, and I almost feel like this series isn't going to extend past season 3 because the stories can be wrapped up this season, if not in a season and a half.
When the apocalypse has already been going on over 20
Right.
years.
They can always expand the universe, sure, and milk it for all it's worth.
Walking
But
Dead.
Ellie's story, I really don't foresee being past. It depends how long they drag it out. If at most a season 3 would be the final season, in my opinion, which would be
Right.
perfect. It's one of those, hey, let's not drag it out too long to be like the Walking Dead franchise where people fall off. And I'm really interested to see because again, I didn't realize they were going to kill him in episode 2. I thought they were going to cliffhanger it and do it later in the season or drag this out the entire season. And so I'm very glad. I think The Walking Dead showed them that you can't do that. You will lose
Okay.
your audience.
Here's the difference too in that, because I've seen a lot of people compare Rick to Joel. Rick
Can't
doesn't
protect
die
Rick.
in the comics
No.
until, like, spoiler, if you're reading the comics, he dies the second to last issue. And then, because I remember reading that issue and being like, oh my God, they killed Rick. And then the next month is like, here's your super thick, very last issue of The Walking Dead.
Right.
And that was it. Whereas Joel, they killed in the game.
They killed
like,
so in the game, he dies.
They have a
this whole thing
blueprint.
goes down and immediately right in the second game.
Yeah, so they have a blueprint for the zombie apocalypse without Joel. They did not have one without Rick. So I feel like
True.
that's the difference there. So I'm not going to compare the two.
No, and there really isn't. They're way two different things, zombie wise, infection wise. I like The Last of Us better, but that's not to say that The Walking Dead was ever bad. Yeah, they are. It's apples to oranges at this point, but that's kind of where we're at. It's funny to see like Tabby's reaction. I'm never watching the show again. Everybody was just in shock that Pedro died, and it was liberating in a way for me because I knew it. Well, yeah,
but I would have never come to that conclusion. I really didn't think he was dead, even when I was.
They did a great job.
Dead corpse.
Well, they did a really great job, kind of making you think as they were drawing it out. Abby kept drawing her speech out, and Pedro's like, "Just do it already."
That was hilarious. I actually laughed at that.
Well, and the game does the same thing. And so Ellie's sneaking in. You think that because Jesse's not far behind, they do a great job of building it up to make the audience who doesn't know what's coming think he's not going to die. And then when they pull that rug out, I thought it was really well done. And yeah, so it's almost liberating now that I can talk about it.
I'm so happy for you.
It's sad, but it didn't hurt as much as it did when I played the game. When you play the game, they rip your soul out. So knowing it was coming, we've had time to prepare. So it wasn't soul crushing for me. So seeing you guys, was it very devastating or how did you, I know you're sad, but how do you feel?
I wasn't devastated. I wasn't sad. I was irritated. I felt bamboozled. I felt like I got into the show because I love Pedro Pascal and it sounded like a cool concept. And then I slowly fell in love with the show. But outside of like the Bill and what was his husband's name?
Ted's Excellent Adventure? No, I know. I know what you're talking about.
His name was Ted.
No. Mosby.
Ron Swanson and the guy from White Lotus. Other than that episode, the scenes I loved the most were the ones with Joel, with Pedro Pascal. So I was just like, are you kidding me? I got invested in the show. They're doing all this promoting with the two of them. He's on all the posters.
Because he's the seller. He's in everything right now.
So I was kind of like irritated. And I was in denial. And then Brielle goes, oh yeah, he's dead in the game. I was like, what?
Dude,
and she's
what the
like,
hell,
she looked it up 2 years ago, but apparently she told me 2 years ago that Ellie has a really big tattoo in season 2, and I yelled at her for spoilers.
She tried to cover her thing.
Never told me anything else.
So, Brielle could have hit me up anytime. I would have been glad to explain as I had to with Tabby.
So yeah, so when Brielle told me that, I was like, oh shit, maybe he is dead.
No, he did. You'll get
flashbacks. Yeah, that's why I didn't even text you.
This is Ellie's story.
Like, what the fuck?
Game 2 is, this Last of Us. A lot of people thought it was Joel's story. No, it is Ellie's story.
I also didn't feel like it was a momentous death. I didn't feel like it was built.
It really didn't. That's the thing. It just happens so suddenly, and that's what happens in the game too. You're just It
Yeah, but
happens in a way that you're just left thinking, what the hell just happened?
it kept leaving opportunities for somebody to come in and stop it.
Yeah.
And
And
like one of her friends, okay, stop, you're going too far. Ellie walking in, like time passing, like
I like that though, because again, you keep thinking, but then it subverts your expectations.
I don't
And that's,
know. It
I
was
like it.
odd for me. It wasn't shocking. It wasn't tear jerker to me. I was just like,
Yeah, I
what
didn't
is
cry.
happening?
I can't remember the last time I
No,
got
I
really
didn't
sad about
cry.
a character's death.
When was the last time I got really
I don't
sad
know.
about a character death? I
Anyways,
don't.
that's all we have for episodes 1 and 2, of course. We will continue talking about this, and probably next week we'll talk about some Andor, but what?
I know the last time I cried about a character's death. It was, and this is going to lead us into because on Monday we'll be dropping
Maria
our
Hill in Secret
Thunderbolts.
Invasion.
No, it was Chadwick Boseman. It was Black Panther because Wakanda Forever.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
I
Yes.
rewatched some of that. I had to skip
Dang.
through it because
What?
I'll just
Come on,
start
man.
crying
That's sad.
again.
Yeah. I
Because
haven't rewatched that movie because of that, to be honest with you. I
same,
can't.
but Valentina Allegra de Fontaine is in it.
Oh, well,
So
that's
I
right. That's
watched
fair.
parts of it for
She is.
Thunderbolt. So
Well,
yes,
good news for everybody listening. Thunderbolts is coming out next week. I know there's spoiler reactions out there right now. Please, fans and all that
tread
stuff,
lightly.
tread lightly. We are going to be here on Monday discussing getting you ready. We're going to talk about the Thunderbolts
No
characters.
spoilers.
No spoilers. We're talking about where you last saw them in the MCU and kind of get you ready for Thunderbolts. So make sure you go ahead, check that out. This past week, we talked about the Daredevil Born Again season finale with Andrew Hewitt, who is a mental health professional. We dove into that. We had Tyrell Cannon, our boy, on where we got to talk about his comic Eris. And then not only do we have the Monday episode talking about Thunderbolts, we have next Wednesday, Zach Kaplan came on the show to talk about Kill All the Mortals and his other comic book Mastermind coming out through Dark Horse. And then, once Thunderbolts comes out, the two of us are going to do a special review episode for it. But more importantly, Revenge of the Sith is out this weekend. I personally, yes, we're going to go see Revenge of the Sith. I am at least. And not only that, but May is Star Wars month. So we're going to kick things off of Star Wars month talking about the Clone Wars and Revenge of the Sith. So make sure you guys please like, subscribe, share, follow, hit us up on the socials, follow the podcast anywhere you can find us on Hops Geek News. That's the name. The links are all in the bio. And make sure you hit the notification buttons, leave reviews, help us. It's been really rad. Everybody listening. So thank you for the support. And if you do want to support, patreon.com/hopsgeeknews is where you can do so. And with that said, we will see you guys next week. Peace out, Girl Scouts.